5-second drawings are a pretty huge challenge for anyone. And as you can see, as I start, I'm basically just like drawing stick figures. And that's the thing about gesture drawings. You're not trying to make a beautiful image. You're not trying to make it perfect. Like, it's not supposed to be like a finished drawing. Like, if you want to make a finished drawing, then go make a finished drawing. This is purely just a tool for yourself as an artist to warm up your muscles, to get into that mindset, to just feel that feeling of mark making. And so it's really more of a tool for yourself to study the form, to understand new forms. In this case, this session is all about different body types in different positions, in different angles. Using a tool like this that has such a vast library of images allows you to study a wide variety of different forms and different people all at once in a really short amount of time during a drawing session. One of the things that I'm really excited to share with this video is how my lines start off kind of rough and with less confidence, and they're kind of scribbly in the beginning, but you'll see in real time as you watch me progress through these 5-second and then 30-second gesture drawings that my lines will become more confident, more controlled, and then the pictures start looking like actual people. And that's an important lesson in trusting the process. So much about art is about process and less about the final product. And I think that's where a lot of beginner artists kind of get stuck a little bit, is there's such a focus on the final product and on making beautiful pictures or great work, so that the process gets a little neglected. But the only way you're going to make great work or make work that you're proud of is by going through the learning process and the journey of learning how to make art. That's why I talked about in a previous video how important it is to make the process of drawing and the process of making art enjoyable. To set yourself up for success, listen to music you like, feel comfortable in your environment, find a place that you can focus fully on your work and not get distracted. Because the more that you enjoy making art, the more you're going to learn and the better art you're going to make. As you're drawing, focus on the line of action. And the line of action is not necessarily the spine or like the middle of the pose. It's more about the whole flow of the entire pose. Think big picture. What's the first thing that stands out to you when you look at the pose? What are the biggest lines and the sharpest angles? Where is your eye drawn in the image? What is the overall energy of the figure? With these sketches, I am not aiming for any sort of perfection. The goal here is to just put enough information down to represent the pose and then keep moving on to the next picture. As much as it is a physical warm-up, it's a brain exercise. So don't worry about making things that look pretty or beautiful. Don't get caught up on your mistakes. Don't let your feeling that you made a mistake or a misstep with a line or something make you stop your forward momentum. Just keep going, keep working through it. If something feels a little bit off, then you just keep moving on. Make it better in the next drawing. I definitely struggle with perfection, so this is a really helpful exercise for me when I'm getting going drawing, to let go of that pressure to be perfect. The more that you let go of these little details and the little mistakes, any little feeling of failure as you work through these, the more you're freeing your mind to focus on the bigger picture. One reason that we're starting off with these super fast 5-second gesture drawings is to force your brain to keep moving forward, to keep that momentum going. Because the faster you work, the less opportunity you'll have to get stuck on little mistakes, to get stuck on the details. And then you can really focus on learning. However, gesture drawing can still be a little tricky to get the hang of. Gesture drawing is really a drawing exercise that's not about communication with others. So unlike other forms of drawing where you're trying to make something maybe beautiful or communicate a feeling, gesture drawing is just a tool purely for the artists themselves. And if you happen to make a really beautiful drawing as a result, then that's just a byproduct. The main focus of a gesture drawing is about you understanding and investigating new forms, activating your curiosity, questioning how a figure moves in space, or you can draw any kind of subject when it comes to a gesture drawing, but when it comes to like the human form, thinking thinking about like, how is it that the muscles move this way? My best advice for approaching a gesture drawing is just through curiosity, and every picture that comes on screen, think to yourself, like, how does it look like this? Why does it look like this? So it's just all these questions that you're trying to investigate in a short amount of time to try to figure out the fastest way to represent the form. Warm-ups like this are really, really helpful to get the mind and body going before you start doing professional work or commissioned work. As I'm drawing some of these gestures, some of them I'm thinking more in terms of line, like, oh, how do I represent this using thin line? Others I'm blocking in with shapes and experimenting with different weights of line, like thick lines, thin lines, little points here and there, textures, that kind of thing. So I'm really like trying to play with this and not take things too seriously, because again, I'm not trying to make any finished drawings here. This is just like, if you imagine going to the gym and you're doing little warm-up exercises like jogging in place, or maybe you do stretches, or maybe you do twists just to kind of get your body warmed up. Like in that moment, you are not on the path trying to reach the finish line for anything. You're just doing that purely for yourself, for your own mind, for your own body. You're setting yourself up for success, even though you're not running the marathon yet. But you start with the warm-ups. Here's another way to think about it, and I'm jumping all over the place, but this is just how my brain works. There's advice that people give when you are going in for a job interview. So when you're about to go in for a job interview, it is suggested that you don't look down at your phone, chin up, use quote-unquote power poses, which means that you stretch your arms out, kind of stretch your legs out, try to pose your body and get yourself in an embodied kind of mindset of feeling confident, feeling powerful, feeling like your best self. By preparing yourself physically and mentally before you walk into your job interview, you're going to put your best foot forward. You're going to start off the interview with confidence and good energy. And first impressions matter so much that walking in with that confidence and with that good energy will give you a great advantage when it comes to the job interview process. Similarly, an athlete who's trying to run a marathon or a competition or something, if right before your competition, you're just sitting, cold muscles, looking down at your phone, not paying attention, just kind of laid back, then when you step up to that starting line and when the competition starts, you're really at a big disadvantage because you're not even in the right mind space. You're not in the right world to be running that marathon or that competition or whatever, because you were just in a completely different headspace before. So when it comes to drawing, similarly, if you were watching a show or looking through social media on your phone, doing any other activity before you get into a drawing, it's completely natural to need some extra time to transition into that drawing creative mindset. You're switching activities. So the first things that you draw, if you don't warm up, those first sketches, the first lines you put down may not be your best work. But again, it's not because you're a bad artist, and it's nothing wrong with you that you can't do an instant switch to transition into, oh, I'm in artist mode now. And the reason I mention all of this is because I think it's really common for especially beginner artists to get frustrated with their work so easily. And I've been there myself plenty of times. You sit down to draw, you start sketching, you don't like what you're seeing, you get frustrated, and then you give up. You put your utensils down, and then who knows when you're ever going to pick up your drawing implements again. So I don't want to see that happening to people. I hate when that happens to me. It's a terrible feeling, but doing a warm-up exercise like this, that's very easy to get into, that's very low pressure. These drawings are not meant to be seen by the masses. It's just for yourself, so no pressure to share. They're not supposed to look great. So if you end up making, quote, bad art, that's totally okay. In fact, the messier the better, because that means that you're experimenting and broadening your horizons and learning more. You can't go wrong by making a few bad drawings when you're drawing just for yourself. Like, I think this whole exercise in this whole video is a really good example of that. I wouldn't say that pretty much any of the drawings that I did during this whole video are like amazing pieces of art, but I learned a lot. It might be subtle stuff and small stuff, but I learned new things. If you're feeling stuck, if you're experiencing an art block or a drawing block of some kind, then just getting started with something low pressure like this, like gesture drawing, can help you to jumpstart or revive your artistic practice again. So I think even in this gesture process, you compare my 30-second gestures to the 5-second gestures, you can see through this real-time process how my lines are getting a bit more accurate, how I'm getting more confident and quicker about putting the lines down on the page, how everything is flowing and just becoming easier through this warm-up process. And I like to start with the 5-second ones because it's a much bigger challenge. Once you do a few 5-second sketches, then anything after that feels easier. Like 30 seconds feels like a luxury coming out of a 5-second drawing session. I also want to note that in my past video, I talked about the importance of setting aside a space that is specifically for drawing so that you can fully focus on what you're doing. While I was doing these sketches, the absolute opposite was happening for me. My significant other has been staying with me in my tiny little apartment as he's working to move out of his apartment and dealing with other stuff. And so while I was trying to sketch and focus on these sketches, I'm sitting like in the kitchen area and my significant other is over there with a coffee bean grinder, like making these horrific sounds, grinding these coffee beans. It's super loud and he's getting breakfast ready, and I appreciate all of his efforts in the kitchen and getting us food, and it's great. But it was really a quite big challenge for me to focus and concentrate during this little drawing warm-up session. One thing that I really love about practicing using these websites that have these vast libraries of all different photographs and references of different body types and genders is that it really challenges you to study body types and aesthetics that you may not otherwise seek out. I think it's really common for illustrators and artists to gravitate towards certain body types and certain looks that they personally like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're really trying to study and learn something new, and especially if you're trying to be like a character designer and trying to expand your knowledge base about certain features, then doing these exercises where you're introduced to drawing a wide variety of different people is a really great challenge. If you run into the issue of like same face problem, where all of your characters seem to have the same face or the same look to them, then doing an exercise like this could really help you at least get some inspiration to draw forms and face shapes that are more unique. I think another aspect of drawing timed drawings using these tools with these libraries is that it kind of breaks the myth of body formulas. There's a popular drawing hack out there that says a human body is like 7.5 heads tall. Like if you take the person's head and duplicate it 7.5 times, then that makes like their entire height. And then if you want to measure like how wide they are, I think use like 5 heads across, something like that. And of course, there's so many other drawing hacks that talk about kind of cheats and tips and tricks and ways you can draw the human body. Honestly, I'm gonna say a bit of a hot take here and just say that I really don't like that approach. I've always found it to be an oversimplification, inaccurate. It unfortunately sets a lot of people up for failure because while those tips and tricks can help you draw something that will look good, if you don't understand the why and how of what you're drawing, then you'll never be able to reach higher levels of mastery. And that's totally fine if you are looking to just draw as a hobby or for fun, then use tips and tricks and drawing hacks as much as you want. It's totally fine, but I guess I'm speaking more towards anyone who's looking to potentially in the future maybe take they're drawing to another level, then there's really no cheat code for that. It's just a bunch of hard work. Formulas also don't give you the why. Because of the oversimplification, if you just take the formula at face value of like, okay, human body is this many heads across, like why is the human body that many heads across? And I think that's a lesson that's good to know for any study or any drawing. There's always a reason why something is portrayed a certain way. There's always a reason why something exists a certain way. Plus, if we dig a little bit deeper here, say that your argument is that these formulas are based on human averages. Okay, whose averages? Who decided that was the average? Artists are the ones who came up with these proportions. There's no scientific contribution here. So whose ideals and whose beauty standards are you choosing to follow? Using someone else's formula means that you're drawing from their lens and you're giving up your own point of view, using their opinion about what an average human body looks like, before giving yourself, as an artist, a chance to decide what a human body looks like to you. Also, while drawing from photographs is a really great way to practice, drawing from life is the ideal way to practice. That's what art school always says, that's what art teachers always say, is draw from life, draw from life. That's because the challenge of drawing from life teaches you not only what things look like, but how they actually work, like in a three-dimensional physical space. And then you can use that knowledge when you're working on your own imaginative drawings. This is particularly useful if you're looking to get into imaginative illustration, animation, comic books, that kind of field. And that just means that down the road, again, if you're asked to draw something outside of that formula, outside of that comfort zone, then you might end up totally stumped and unable to adapt. It's kind of like cheating on a test or something. Another reason why I don't like formulas and drawing hacks is that these formulas were formed by another artist. The other artist studied anatomy and proportions and stuff from the ground up, and they came up with these formulas that work for them in their artistic practice. I think when you're using somebody else's formula to make your art, it takes away your own originality. Instead of using someone else's formula, why not make up your own formulas? And the best way to do that is from studying from life and studying from reality. Even looking back way to Leonardo da Vinci, his main thing was studying from real life. The reason why he was an artist at all is because he actually worked as an engineer making machines for the military. That was his main gig. And then he used drawing as a tool to understand reality and physics to inform the machines that he was making. I taught art for a very short period of time, and I've helped my friends over the years learn how to draw as well. One thing that happens consistently with beginner artists that I've found is that there's a lot of doubt, especially with people who are maybe a little bit older and getting into art. There's a lack of confidence and a hesitation to just go do stuff. Young kids, I feel like, are less stuck when it comes to this. They'll just go out and try and do stuff. But people who are older especially tend to get stuck thinking that other people have the answer, that they need to look outside themselves to learn how to draw, and they trust other people over their own ability to figure things out. But the truth is that, for the most part, people are very capable of drawing their own conclusions, learning from the world around them, and coming up with their own unique personal style, purely based on observation and personal drawing practice without the input of other people. I recently befriended a storyboard artist, animator, director who works for Disney. And he was talking about how Disney would send the animation teams to go do life drawing, nude figure drawings. They would send them to these nude figure drawing classes where the animators could go and study and learn and just get more experience drawing from life. Because the thing about old school hand-drawn animation, and really all animation, is that it's based on real life. And it's always said, but I'll say it again, learning how things work in reality is an extremely useful tool because it allows you to distort reality in an informed way. The rules of art are meant to be broken, but how can you break the rules if you don't even know what the rules are in the first place? Okay, so I wanted to give more context on this besides just my friend's anecdotal information here. I found a Fast Company article that details how all of this works and what the purpose is. According to the article, since 1932, Disney has been the only entertainment studio to continue an unbroken tradition of offering free life drawing classes for its artists in its studios. The idea is that understanding and capturing the anatomy and sense of motion from a live model improves animated drawings and gestures. Again, that's why we're all here today, is gesture drawing. The article continues, continuing that tradition today are master teachers Carl Nass, Mark McDonnell, and Bob Cato. Collectively, they teach daily life drawing of both nude and costumed models to help animators better understand the fundamentals of the human form, how clothing and gesture inform character and intent, and how to infuse spirit and intent into their figures. Later in the article, there's a quote, "You can draw animation and gesture without life drawing, but life drawing skills give you proportion, structure, perspective, and a certain vitality through rhythmic gestures." And that was said by the aforementioned Carl Nass, who is also a former Disney TV storyboard artist and has taught at Disney since 1995, as well as DreamWorks Animation, Sony Pictures, ImageWorks, and Nickelodeon, among others. He continues, "You can't achieve dynamics without bones and structure, and in order to have structure, you need to study it. From there, one can extend out in any direction towards any style." Another artist says, "Many young artists are looking for an easier way out and study styles of existing animators as opposed to developing their own. Doing something that involves the figure, you want to have it based on a little reality as opposed to a stylization or a distortion of someone else's truth. That's like getting information secondhand. You need to do the same thing they did, which is to work from live models and find your style." I'll include a link down in the description to the entire article, so if you don't want to hear it from me, then you can go read what Disney animators and storyboard artists have to say about the importance of studying real-life references. Okay, so looking at this drawing here, I feel like in this little drawing session, I've come a long way from the scribbles that I was doing in the 5-second mode. My lines are more fluid now, there's more confidence behind the lines. How did you guys do? Please share in the comments what this was like for you, and whether you followed along for a little bit or followed along through the entire session, or if you just listened in and maybe learned something. Progress is progress. Give yourself a pat on the back for taking one more step on the long road of your art journey.